Assalamu alaikum. Now we continue with the basic Arabic grammar. So what we have here, where we left last time, was the singular noun, al-ism al-mufrad. This here we talked about last time. Today we'll talk about broken plural, جمع التكسير. You see how it's different when I say it by itself, but if you read it here, it's جمع التكسير, that E at the end. That's because of its position in this sentence. We will cover that when we get to it, the cases. But just a note, if you notice these movements, they're different from what I say. So this جمع means plural or gathering or group, to gather. The name of that is جمع, the plural, gathered. تكسير, broken. كسر, he broke, or يكسر, he's breaking. جمع التكسير, تكسير is the name for that action. So this is a plural of the broken type. You can understand this as the broken plural type. جمع التكسير. So this is the second type of noun that takes this رفع or raising, to raise. رفع literally means to raise. And we talked about this dhamma that indicates the state of رفع or raising. That's what it's called. So we're covering the dhamma now as a mark for this state of رفع. This is the state of رفع here. رفع, that's the mark for a dhamma, which is this O here. That's an O there, dhamma. So we'll look at examples of this broken plural. The third one is the sound feminine plural. And the fourth one is the present tense verb. The only tense of verbs that changes the movement at the end. So that's why you see it only mentioned the present tense verb. The other ones, they have fixed cases, but sometimes they change when the pronouns attached to them. We'll get to that later. So if we read this again, باب معرفة علامات الإعراب. للرفع 4 علامات: الضمة والواو والألف والنون. فأما الضمة فتكون علامة للرفع في 4 مواضع في الاسم المفرد وجمع التكسير وجمع المؤنث السالم والفعل المضارع الذي لم يتصل بآخره شيء. So we'll check جمع التكسير. I discussed last time the book for elementary schools. We used some example from it. This here is the introduction to the singular, dual, and plural. So here it says a noun, it's either singular, dual, or plural. Here a definition: المفرد هو اسم دل على شيء واحد. It's a noun that indicates one thing. As, see, this is examples of a singular: كتاب, a book; باب, a door; كاتب, writer; كاتبة, it's a feminine of the same, writer. This here with the ta or a, كاتبة. It has 2 dots on it because sometimes when you open it, something else attached to it. You open it and you pronounce it like this ta here, كاتبة or كاتبتان. So this is a feminine for a writer, singular. All these are singulars. We covered that. The dual, we talked briefly about it. A noun that indicates 2 things, like كتابان, 2 books. That's one of the ways you use the dual. Say كتابان, that's it. It's known as this is 2 books, كتابان, by adding this and there. بابين, we will talk later about how this changes into ya. كاتبان, 2 writers. If you're saying 2 writers, كاتبان, you just add that on. كاتبين, This here is a variation on this katiban. We will cover this in detail later. Here it explains the singular becomes a dual. This muthanna here means dual by adding بزيادة ألف ونون. If you add this a here, it's called alif, and noon, this n here, noon, alif, noon. If you add these, you get this dual case. Or ya ونون. You see, this is what I talked about. This ya here, this ya here. By adding these, you saw what he's saying here. You're not going into the grammar. You're just saying this indicates a dual and this indicates a dual. Later we'll get in why they changed this into either a ya and noon and an alif and noon. Ya wa noon fi akhirih, at its end. At the end, if you add this ya and noon or alif and noon. The plural الجمع هنا, this is what we are talking about today. هو اسم دل على ثلاثة أو أكثر. It's a noun that indicates three or more. So that's what considered a plural. Three or more, a noun that indicates three or more. Example, مثل, like, كتب. This is a plural for book. You see how the word kitab, you lost this a here, and ki, ta, that's the short vowels on it, kitab, became ku, tu. You see how the vowels changed? That's why they call it broken plural. In order to make the plural, this singular had to change. أبواب. You see here, the singular of this is bab. You see how it changed by adding something to it and adding another wa here and an u. أبواب. Here we'll cover this later. We're using a different mark for the state of rafa or raising, but this here is example for sound plural masculine. So that's different. This is not the broken plural. Here is a sound plural. You see, I talked last time about the un. I will talk about it later also. This here is katibat. We might cover this today. If not, next time we can, because this is the third noun that takes that u. We said we're talking about the mark for the state of raised, being raised, or rafa. This u, dhamma. And these here, the sound plural for feminine will take that. So you can say katibatun, katibatun. So here, this is not, we should not worry about this. We'll cover this later. Now if we look at some examples, you see here, this is an exercise in this book. I talked about this last time, so you can go back to it if you want. Here they have singular nouns, and they're asking for them to be made into the plural case. So this here is wounded, مجروح, مجروح, someone who is wounded. The plural for this, jarha. You will see jarha. You see that's jarha. So that's the plural. This is a broken plural. You see how it changed from this u was omitted and you get the jarha there. Jundi here, jundiyun, this is a soldier. This u for the G letter here, ju, jundiyun. So this is a singular for soldier. The plural for it, junud, soldiers. You just add s in English, but here it's in Arabic it's a broken plural, junud. Here, dhahibatun, she is going, dhahiba, dhahiba. This here is a sound plural we will cover later. It's the third case. So dhahibat, you can have dhahibatun. You have that mark for being raised. There is more to talk about for the plural or sound plural for feminine. We will get to that later. So this is a sound feminine plural, dhahibatun. truth حقيقة fact or truth. You see this will change to حقائق. Sometimes you see the letter ق like this, we have this twist there, or you can see it حقائق. You see instead of writing 2 dots I did this. You can write the ق like this. So this is the same as this one, but that's a different way of writing it. You might see it like this حقائق. So if we take مجلة, this is a magazine. It's مجلات. That's for another type of feminine plural. I said I will cover some of the feminine plural, sound plural. Notice you only add the ta to it. For the feminine, even if you lose this ta at the end, it's still considered to be sound. This here you see they added the when I wrote ذاهبات, I just omitted this ta at the end. So not to go too deep into this, but that's not considered to be breaking. You're just this is added to make this feminine. So if you write طالبة, that's student, a female student. If you make it طالبات, you see I only added this ta to it, but I omitted this ta. The reason we call this ta and we pronounce it is sometimes you open it. It's called a tied ta. So when you stop at it and it's not connected to anything, we just pronounce it as ha. طالبة. If you put tanween on it, you say طالبة. You see that's why we have the 2 dots on it. طالبة. With this dam tanween, or a nation of the u. Dam. Let's do another example here. This here is فتيان or فتى. This is a boy, فتى. The way it changes into plural, فتيان. This and فتيان. You see it changed it, the whole thing changed from a to ya. سهم, an arrow, this سهم here. سهام, plural. You can hear the word أسهم in the news. That's for shares. So this works as a share and an arrow. They use the same word, so you can hear أسهم. Here this is another way of saying it, سهام or سهام. Now we'll look at another text to see how the broken plural changes. Here I'm showing you this list not to remember it. It's just to tell you that what's possible on the having the plural. It's not following one pattern. So you have here indicating what it is. It just indicate more than 2 or 2 feminine or masculine things. The kinds of change that go with this plural. He says he's given you 6 ways that the broken plural can go. Do you need to remember this? No, you don't have to. Just check the dictionary. If you do not see an u, an un here, on a noun, or you don't see an at, this here is un, and this here is at, and you don't see an at the end of the noun, so you recognize it as a noun. You don't see this, you don't see this, you don't see this. So there's a good chance you're looking at either a singular noun or a broken plural. From there, you can just check the dictionary to how it looks. Here, this is just to give you an example how they change, so you'll be familiar with the way they might look. So here you have an asad, that's a singular for lion. One of the ways is a ust. That's one of the ways they make the plural. You might hear it differently. They say usud. Shajara, this is the singular for a tree. وشجر. So he's saying over here, just by omitting a letter, this ta here is not like the feminizing ta. By omitting it, it's changed the singular. So that's what I'm talking about. You don't have to worry about these things. You just know it. There's some changes. Notice here, I said if you say this and you're looking probably at the dual, but not always. This here is a sunwan. This is the singular. You just added the an to it. But this is a plural. So in general, this is how a broken plural would look like. This here is saying the sixth way this might go, the broken plural, by adding and omitting to the noun. So a prince, princes, amir, umara. You see how they changed the vowels, the letters, they added. Now I said that if we have enough time, we will cover the sound feminine plural. I think we don't have too much time. We'll leave that till next time. So today we do some reading from Charles Dickens. So we got to this page from a discussion about Charles Dickens, the book that discusses Charles Dickens and his writing, and translates some of, or a summary of his stories, or some of his stories. We get to this page 13 of that book. We discussed that book before. So you'll find a link to it or the name for the site that has it in the description below. So وبقوة ما كان يشعر به ديكنز استطاع أن يخاطب القارئ بقلبه ويسيطر عليه ويمتلك حواسه ونفسه فيبكيه حينا ويضحكه أحيانا وينتقل به من البكاء إلى الضحك ومن الضحك إلى البكاء وهي صفة ظاهرة في كتابته تلازمه ملازمة الظل للإنسان فبينما تنسى نفسك وتبكي وأنت تقرأ ينتقل بك إلى صورة أخرى تضحكك وتبعث السرور في نفسك كأنه يشفق عليك من البكاء وإنها لمقدرة عظيمة تلك التي تمكن صاحبها من أن يضحك ويبكي من يشاء كما يشاء في الوقت الذي يصف فيه بطريقة قصصية عيوب المجتمع محاولا أن يصل إلى العلاج الذي يراه ويرتضيه. كان ديكنز يميل إلى المبالغة ليؤثر في نفوس قارئيه كي يعملوا على إصلاح المجتمع وإزالة ما به من شرور وآثام ومظالم وآلام وفي كل رواية من رواياته كان يتجه إلى إصلاح بعض نواحي الحياة وإن كانت إنجلترا مدينة لأحد فهي مدينة لديكنز في إصلاح حياتها الاجتماعية. So I'll translate this page now, and next time we finish with this introduction to the stories of Dickens. وبقوة ما كان يشعر به ديكنز استطاع أن يخاطب القارئ بقلبه. And this here is and wa, because we'll continue from the previous paragraph. So you have, by the strength of his feeling or what he feels, he was able to communicate to the reader, or he was able to talk to the reader with his heart. And this word يسيطر means control of, or reign over, or something like this in that context. So يسيطر عليه ويمتلك حواسه ونفسه, controlling him, so, and own his senses and his self. So in other words, he's saying he can capture their attention completely. They stay focused on him. And It's even more that يبكيه أحيانا, he makes him cry. Sometimes he will make the reader cry. Other times ويضحكه أحيانا. Other times he makes him laugh or makes her laugh. And وينتقل به من البكاء إلى الضحك. And he moves him from crying to laughing. البكاء إلى الضحك. Crying to laughing. ينتقل به, transport him or move him from crying to laughing. ومن الضحك إلى البكاء, and from laughing to crying. وينتقل به من البكاء إلى الضحك ومن الضحك إلى البكاء. وهي صفة ظاهرة في كتابته. It's a mark or a characteristic that's apparent in his writing. So وهي صفة. صفة is an adjective and a characteristic of something. So he is recognized by something. You see, use the word صفة. ظاهرة, apparent or obvious, or you can see it. ظاهرة in his writing. وهي صفة ظاهرة في كتابته. تلازمه ملازمة الظل للإنسان. Or this quality of his writing, it's associated with him just like a shadow to a human being. That's how noticeable it is. It's always with him. فبينما تنسى نفسك وتبكي وأنت تقرأ ينتقل بك إلى صورة أخرى تضحكك وتبعث السرور في نفسك. So when you forget yourself and start crying while you're reading, he moves you from that to another image that makes you laugh and make you happy inside. كأنه يشفق عليك من البكاء. As if he feels sympathy for you from crying, or feels sorry for you that are crying, so he makes you happy or alleviates some of that or change the mood. وإنها لمقدرة عظيمة تلك التي تمكن صاحبها من أن يضحك ويبكي من يشاء كما يشاء. And it is a great ability that allows its possessor or the one who has it to make whomever he wants cry or laugh whenever he wants or as he wants. في الوقت الذي يصف فيه بطريقة قصصية عيوب المجتمع. At the same time that he is describing in a way storytelling or entertaining or بطريقة a way or a method, a story, telling a story, the faults of the society. So describing the faults of the society in a way that's in the form of a story. That's in the same time he's doing this, describing the faults of a society in a story form, he's able to make people cry and laugh. محاولا أن يصل إلى العلاج الذي يراه ويرتضيه. He's trying, or as he's doing all this, trying to reach the cure that he sees as a cure, يراه, and he's satisfied with. He likes. كان ديكنز يميل إلى المبالغة ليؤثر في نفوس قارئيه. He was inclined to exaggerate in order to have a bigger influence or to affect something in the hearts or the souls of his readers. النفوس can mean self, can mean their inner feelings. In that context you can think of their نفوس. He was inclined to exaggerate so that كي يعمل على إصلاح المجتمع, so that they would work towards the reform of the community or the society. وإزالة ما به من شرور وآثام, and remove what's in it, meaning the society, evils and sins. ومظالم وآلام, and injustices and pain and suffering. وفي كل رواية من رواياته كان يتجه إلى إصلاح بعض نواحي الحياة. And in every novel or story he wrote, from his novels, he was aiming to or intends to. يتجه means to face towards something or direct oneself or a direction. So if you say someone is traveling باتجاه in the direction of, or يتجه meaning he's directing himself. وفي in each of his story وفي كل رواية من رواياته he used to direct. His intention or direction was to reform some parts of life or sides of life. وإن كانت إنجلترا مدينة لأحد فهي مدينة لديكنز في إصلاح حياتها الاجتماعية. And if England owes anybody, it owes Dickens for the reform in its social life. This video became too long. Next time, inshallah, we finish more. I think there's 2 more pages left from this introduction. As I said, I had a list for the story of David Copperfield, a summary of that story, not every detail. I made a recording of that. It's in a list called Charles Dickens, David Copperfield. There is parts, so you can go watch them part by part, or I joined them all in one 39 minutes video. So I read in Arabic. So if you're just interested in reading, listening to the reading and follow the pointer and pause, read it yourself, you can do that. There is no translation there. Here I'll just continue with this. We do as much as we can every time. So thank you for listening. Next time, inshallah, we continue with the remaining 2 nouns that take the dhamma and to indicate the state of rafa'. See you next time, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.